Hi everyone, welcome to episode 12, Baked Chocolate Mousse Cake with Blackcurrant Filling. I was inspired after my lovely neighbor Angela had passed us some fresh blackcurrants from her farm. I decided to make a baked chocolate mousse cake to go with the blackcurrant after seeing that Lindt chocolate pairs their dark chocolate with blackcurrants. Here you will notice that there is a blackcurrant center in their chocolate bars. I wanted to do something similar. Get ready with your apron. Let's start with the filling. Get your scale and a medium-sized pot. These are Angela's blackcurrants, picked straight from her farm. I kept them frozen to maintain the freshness for when we need them, and today is the day we need them. Loosen them by hitting them, but not too hard. Measure out 200 grams of blackcurrants. Their color has a very nice deep set purple. Let's try one. Oh wow! If you have never had blackcurrants before, they are super sour. That woke me up. I need to balance the sourness with some blueberries. Measure out 100 grams of blueberries. I am using frozen ones as well. That looks well mixed. The sweetness from the blueberries will help tone down the sourness of the blackcurrants. Bring the pot onto the stove and turn it on to medium to high heat. We are gonna cook the berries. Next, take a small bowl and measure out 100 grams of caster sugar. We will also be using pectin powder to help thicken up the berries, making it like a jam. A link for this will be in the description. We need 12 grams of pectin powder. Give it a mix because we don't want it to go lumpy. I always like using a wooden spoon when making jams. Also, stand by a metal tray for the jam later. Vapor will start to happen, which is totally normal because you are heating up something from frozen. Give it some time and the berries will start to release some of their juice. Pour in half of the sugar pectin mixture. Stir to dissolve. In a moment, pour in the rest of the sugar pectin mixture. We want it to boil for at least 5 minutes to activate the pectin. Once it has boiled for 5 minutes, turn off the heat and pull to one side. We can then pour the jam onto the metal tray. This will help in the cooling process. Spread the jam out on the tray so that it can cool evenly. I always check by drawing a line. This helps me look for consistency because when I draw the line and if it stays the same or if it comes back together. This looks good. It will thicken up more in the fridge. Take some cling film and wrap the surface to touch. Next, we are going to line our baking tin so that we will be ready later on. I am using a spring tin. This will be much easier to release the cake with. We only need to line the base with baking paper. Measure out your tin and use a knife or blade to cut around the base. Try cutting in one motion. There you have it, perfectly round. Assemble your tin back together. I am using some oil spray to help me stick the baking paper to the base. Press down and make it smooth. There you go, nice and flat. Set your oven to 160 degrees Celsius. Now we can start with the chocolate mousse mix. Get out your weighing scale, mixing bowl and a small bowl. We will be separating egg whites from egg yolks. Place in the mixing bowl 125 grams of egg yolks. We will be using a whisk attachment. Save the egg whites for later. Bring out your stand mixer. Switch it on to medium to high speed. We want to fluff up the egg yolks. Let that go for a couple of minutes. It will double in size and turn pale. While that is happening, we are going to make a sugar syrup. Measure in a small bowl 215 grams of caster sugar and pour some water over the sugar, just enough to cover the sugar. Bring the pot over to the stove and turn the heat on to medium to high heat. We want it to boil. Be on standby with a thermometer. Place that on the side of the pot. While the syrup is boiling, Place the thermometer in. We want it to reach a temperature of 121 degrees Celsius. We are at about 103 degrees right now. It will be some time till it reaches 121 degrees. Let's check on the whisking egg yolks. Nice and thick. Keep the whisk running. Back on to the sugar syrup. We are almost there. Alright, take the thermometer out. Pull the pot to one side and turn the heat off. Give it a shake to settle the sugar syrup. Now we can pour the sugar syrup over the whisking egg yolks slowly. This will help cook the egg yolks, making it silky smooth and thicker. While that is whisking away into a medium-sized pot, let's measure out 325 grams of butter. Bring the pot to the stove and turn the heat to medium to high. We want the butter to boil, but not for too long. Place a whisk in the butter. I will be using 70% Lindt dark chocolate to give that rich flavor. We will need 200 grams. And to counter the bitterness of dark chocolate, I will be using 200 grams of milk chocolate. Ah yes, the smell of boiling butter. Let's get back to it. We can now turn the heat off and pour in the chocolate. Push it to one side. Let that soak for at least 2 minutes. The hot butter will melt the chocolate. Bring it over and whisk the butter with chocolate. Whisk away to make sure everything is dissolved and combined. Let's check on the whisking egg yolks. That looks really creamy. Scrape your whisk and keep the yolks on standby. Now, remember the egg whites from earlier? Take another mixing bowl and measure out 200 grams of egg whites. Use a whisk attachment and we are going to make somewhat of a meringue. While that is whisking, take a small bowl and pour in 110 grams of caster sugar. Now that the egg whites have been going for a little bit, pour in half the sugar and let that go for a couple of minutes. And then pour in the other half. Once your meringue has stiffened up, take it off the mixer. I am confident my meringue is stiff enough. Now that we have everything ready, let's start building the mousse mix. Take the egg yolks and give it a little mix, just to loosen it. Pour the chocolate butter mix into the egg yolk bowl. You can pour the whole thing in. Use a whisk to fold. You can also use a spatula, but I like to fold with a whisk. Take out about half the meringue. Mix it and realize you have a small bowl. Change for a larger bowl. Fold in a circular folding motion. Mix in the rest of the meringue. Mix until no whites can be visible. Use a rubber spatula to ensure the bottom is well mixed. Take a weighing scale and a bowl and pour out everything. We want to measure the weight of it. That was a grand total of 1,400 grams. Now I need a calculator. We're going to divide it by 3, which comes to about 465 grams per layer. A trick I have, if your cake tin is bigger than your scale, is to place the cake tin on top of something that fits on your scale. Now we're going to pour 465 grams of chocolate mousse mix into the round cake tin from earlier. We are going to bake the first layer for 25 minutes. Let's take the bowl and place cling film over it and place it somewhere cool. While the first layer is baking, let's check on the blackcurrant filling we made earlier. Peel back the clean film. It looks nice and properly set. I'm going to blend the filling because there are still some chunks of blackcurrant and blueberries. Blend until smooth. I am also going to sieve the filling to remove the skin and, more importantly, the tiny seeds from the blackcurrant. This step is optional. It all depends on the mouthfeel when you eat this cake. I don't want any tiny seeds. There you go. Much better once all the gritty bits are removed. Let's fill in a piping bag. Flatten the bag to get rid of any air bubbles. Thanks to the power of editing, the cake is ready too. Take the cake out. Let it rest. After 30 minutes, the sides of the cake will sink in. Totally normal. What we are going to do now is to level the cake. I have a second cake base, or you can use a spoon. Make sure it's totally flat all around. Now we're going to go ahead and use the filling we made. Take your piping bag and with the help of a chopping board, press down to really ensure everything is at one end. We are going to cut a hole. I'm going to be piping a small ring and a large ring. The reason I am piping like this is that I still want the chocolate mousse to be on the outer edge and the most inner circle to give the cake some structure. I would say 1 finger's width. Pipe steadily all around. Draw it like a pen. Once that is done, we can now measure the second layer of the cake. Place on a weighing scale and pour out 465 grams of chocolate mousse mix. Because the mix is liquid enough, we don't really have to spread it. Place it in the oven and bake again for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, take the cake out and let it rest and cool. After cooling down for 30 minutes, do the same process again. Flatten the surface and pipe the filling around again. Pour all of the remaining chocolate mousse mix over the top. We don't have to weigh it out this time, because we already divided it before. Nice and level. Now the last baking is important. We're going to go in for 8 minutes, and then we're going to turn the cake around and go in for another 8 minutes. Now it's ready. The surface of the cake should have a matte finish, not glossy or shiny, and when you shake or poke the sides of the tin, there should be a slight jiggle. We can take it out. Let it cool outside for a little bit, and then we can keep it overnight in your fridge or freezer uncovered. Overnight is better. The next day, take it out of the fridge or freezer. My little trick to taking the ring off of the cake tin is to place a tall enough bowl underneath of the cake tin. I also have a blowtorch to help me in heating up the sides. You can use a hot wet kitchen towel. Heat the sides up gently. There you go, as simple as that, but be careful, it can get quite hot. I also like to check the size of the cake. I like the illusion that you can't tell there are layers, and when you cut into it, there are. The surface looks sunken, but not to worry. If you are not fussed by the look of it, then it's alright. Now let's make it easier to cut. We will need to remove the base. Take some baking paper and place onto it, and flip it in one motion. Peel back the base. The baking paper helps in taking the cake out nicely and clean. And then the baking paper. Easy as this. I like cutting on baking paper because then I can move the cake easily around if I need to. Back with the blowtorch. Heat your knife up with the flame, or you can use hot water, but when you do use hot water, make sure to wipe the water away. Alright, let's make some slices. Cut down in one go. Try not to drag the knife. Wipe your knife after every cut. This will ensure clean cuts. This 10-inch cake tin can get you 12 decent triangle slices. Now, just as a finisher, dust some cocoa powder on the top to make it extra rich and to hide any dimples from the surface. This segment of the video is if you want to tidy the corners up. Just take a knife and run it along the top until you get a flat surface. There you go, a more leveled top. Make your slices and then you can get a uniform cake slice. I would always recommend running a palette knife or a regular knife just to clean up the cuts to reveal the layers. Once again, dust some cocoa powder on the top and then you can enjoy a multi-layered baked chocolate mousse cake with blackcurrant and blueberry filling. You may not get it on the first bite. You sure will get the layers that we wanted on the second bite. Perfect balance of layers, the dark chocolate is complemented by the sweet and slightly sour filling. Not too overpowering, and it goes down deliciously. Well, thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you enjoyed what you watched, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, comment, and subscribe for more. Until next time, bye for now.